I have not sat down to film a video in like 48 hours, and I have forgotten how to talk to the camera. But that's okay because I think partly I'm just overexcited, and it's a hodgepodge of things that I want to talk about with you. Yeah, and I don't know, a little bit reflective, a little bit of just a little processing, reporting back on what it's like to be an elementary school librarian specifically. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm excited to talk to you all, and I'm feeling a little at sea in terms of talking words and thoughts coming together out of the mouth. So, if you're new to my channel, just know that my name is Shelly and I love books and reading. And now I'm working as an elementary school librarian, and I'm loving it. And I just wanted to share like what's going on at the library kind of thing. So, if you're new and not yet subscribed, please subscribe. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Perhaps some context for those who may not know, or a refresher for those who do. So I got my bachelor's degree in English, and much later, actually, when I was having my second son, D, I went back to graduate school. I went back like 7 months pregnant. And yeah, that was a journey. I took a summer semester, turned in my last paper, then the very next day had my second child, and returned back to graduate school 3 weeks later, not 3 days later, 3 weeks later. So just newborn baby at home, doing graduate school, having little kids, and I graduated May of 2020. So the semester that I was interning at a elementary school and getting sort of like practicum hours, essentially, the pandemic happened. And we all know how that ended. And nobody was really looking for a librarian at that time. It was such a strange time. So I took some time off. I entered back into the teaching sphere a few years later. And I have been kind of waiting around for a job in a library, something that I thought would be a good fit. And so I've been just patiently waiting. And very recently, I started at a private school as their librarian, and I could not be more excited. It's exactly the kind of work that I've always wanted to do, and I am just so full of joy. I mean, I was texting a friend a few days ago, and I was like, I get to read books to kids and talk about books and like move them around and keep up with. I mean, what is my life? This is amazing. This is like heaven to me. So I love it so much. And it's also been challenging in its own way. A lot of it is that I have worked with younger students, but most of my experience has been in middle school, like 6th and 7th grade, or even 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. I know that age group really well, and now I am reading library books, or having library time, library and tech class, actually. I'm like a teacher of both those subjects, and they're separate. Library is one subject and technology is another subject. But now I'm interacting with students starting with kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. That's mostly who I'm working with. And then I see the middle school students for library time, and I do a couple of other things around the school to assist and, fill in where they need it, which is wonderful. I love that. And so basically I'm interacting with all the students in my school. And I say all of this because I have yet to learn their names. And, knowing someone's names, knowing a name, I'm realizing is so powerful. So some of these kids I've seen several times, 3, 4 times, and I'm still like struggling because I'm learning about 200, 210, maybe even with the staff, like close to 250 new names, right? Like if I ballparked it. So I'm learning all of these new names, and it's hard. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I think that one of my tasks this weekend, or at least in the mornings, is to just, for the classes that I see that day, to just start rolling through the names. I just think that that's really, really important for me to do. And I think that there's like a power in that. So it was interesting because I saw one of the classes one day and I could not, I mean, I knew like one name. And then I saw them the following day for another subject. And in that time period, I was like, I need to get myself together and learn their names. So I learned their names, and it was just so like the kids knew that I had gotten it together when I was like, okay, you know, and I'm making it Lisa, George, Michael, like all these people, like you can go sit down or you can go to transition or you can go to checkout, instead of being like, hey, you with the white polo shirt. We have uniforms, by the way. Everyone, all the elementary school kids wear white polo shirts. So instead of being like, hey, you right there with the white polo shirt, hey, can you come over here? Like, did you check that out yet? Or, you know, did you need any help? Like, it's so much more powerful to be able to say their name. But it's been a challenge, you know, like that's one of the challenges. And it's like one of the challenges that I didn't anticipate. And I didn't realize how powerful it was until now I'm put into the situation in which I'm interacting with a bunch of different kids and I don't know their names. And it's like, oh, like, it's just so much harder, you know? It's just so much harder. The big checkouts for the week, Dogman is circulating the graphic novel. I think they're graphic. Yeah, Graham's read them by Dave Pilkey. Those are hugely popular right now. Way more popular than Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I'm just shocked at, like, how much they're read. So, yeah, that's been happening. There's also the Babysitters Club, the graphic novels of the Babysitters Club that are widely circulating. So I think I want to read, I know what Dogman is about because my older son Graham has read quite a few of them, but not my younger son, but the Babysitters Club, that's what I was going to say, I don't know much about. And so I don't really, like, I kind of want to know the appeal, or I really want to understand the vibe. Like, I understand Dogman because Graham's told me all about it, and it's, like, silly, and it has, you know, I've, like, read parts of it with him, so, like, I get it. So I need to, like, go back around and read the Babysitter Club, at least the graphic novels, because that's what's circulating, not the actual Babysitter Club books that came out in the 80s and 90s, I think. It's the graphic novels that have been hugely popular. The students love Legos, sometimes in their downtime, or if they've already checked out a book or whatnot, I'll set out Legos for them. Love Legos. And I was telling Ted actually that there's a couple of different kinds of Lego builders. You realize this when you observe children, and large groups of them for many hours a day. And then, which is so cool. So there are the Lego builders who build sculptural things, like they build a rope, like out of, if there's nothing, right? There's no instructions. You have a pile of Legos in front of you. There are students that build like a sculptural item, such as, you know, I've had a kid build like a parrot or a duck, you know, and it's one thing made out of several Legos, or a robot, or something like that. I really like that. Ted, my husband, builds Legos like that. Did you think that we were going to talk about Legos today? Neither did I, but here we are. So there's the student that builds like a sculpture out of Legos. And then there's the student that builds like a scene, a beach scene, or a house with kitchen and garden, or and they collect all these little items, and they make a little, like, almost like a little Polly Pocket scene, but with Legos. And then there are like the house builders, which is a little bit different than the scene, because the scene has all these like special items. The house builders, they're like wanting to create like a structure, but not a sculptural structure, but like an architectural structure from what they have. And then the last one is, and it could be, or those who, I would say even in that same vein, are those not just building houses, but they're building like a vehicle, like an airplane or a boat. They're using the base and they're like adding on to it to create some sort of like vehicle or a living habitat, you know. But it's different than like the scene, like building a scene out, because then I feel like there's all these little special characters in the scene, like a beach ball and beach flowers and a volleyball net and little camping gear, like all that kind of stuff that some of the students get. And then the final student, which is the final kind of grouping of students that I've noticed, are those who build little characters. And so they're looking for different heads to put on, different helmets to put on, different types of hair, different pants, different things to hold, whether it be, a sword or a bird or I don't know, a hairbrush. Like, they're looking for little things to gather up and hold. And then it's like they create this little 10, 12 piece character, and it's like decked out. And I wonder if this is influenced by video games. I don't know much about video games. I don't even know the difference between Minecraft and Roblox, but I think it might be influenced by one of those video games, because you can, in those games or in those types of games or games that are popular now is what I probably should say, is that, they build out characters on their screen. And so that has, I think, transferred to Legos. And so it's quite popular right now to find characters and then like deck them out, which I think is really interesting. And my boys do it too. They like have like they like take off all the heads of the Lego characters, and then there's like a head shop, like like all the heads that you could possibly fit to your character. Anyways, watching students like use their creative mind, and like when they show me what they build, it's so cool. And it's so much better when I can say, John, that is amazing, rather than that is amazing, because I don't know their name. But they're very gracious. All the students are very gracious, and they're so willing to work with me on it. So I did take some notes. Oh yes, what did I read? So for 2nd and 3rd grade, I read this book, Flotsam by David Weisner. It is not a graphic novel. It is a wordless picture book. There are some words in it. I have featured it on my channel before. I'm not gonna, it's one of the books that I actually didn't bring with me, but it is gorgeous. And it's interesting because essentially what happens is this little boy finds a camera, washed up on a beach during his beach day, and he runs over to the 1 hour photo and gets the film developed. And in the film, there are magical, fantastical things. And so what's interesting is that we get to discuss what 1 hour film developing places are like. Like, I had to, I used it as a point of discussion. It wasn't like, I'm going to tell you what 1 hour film development is. It was like, do you know what that is? And why do we need it? What camera film is? What a camera is like? Because so much of it is digital, right? Like, everybody uses their phones to take pictures. And so creating context is just fantastic. So I did that with my 2nd and 3rd graders. Then I also read to my, I think it was 1st and, I have notes. I think it's to the 1st and 2nd graders for tech class. I read the book Unplugged, and this is by Steve Antony. And so we were doing an unplugged tech lesson, meaning that we were talking about algorithms, and they were working like more on a coloring sheet and worksheet. About algorithms. So it's like, there are times where being on the computer and being on a screen is a really wonderful place to be. And it's also really great to be unplugged sometimes. And so this was a really wonderful book. I'll hopefully have some footage where I flip through it so that you can see the pictures inside, but it's simple. It's easy to understand the concept. I really enjoy asking students questions. And so one of the things that I asked was, how many of you have a tablet? How many of you watch television? It's like all of them do. One little boy was like, I love my screen, And you're just like, okay, it's so sweet. So anyways, that was really cool. It was really sweet. Of course, I couldn't tell you his name. Not that I would, but because I'm still learning all of them. Anyways, there's this, which has been really great. And then, to my 1st graders, they had already read it, so they knew what was happening. So I got to figure out, I don't know, I want books, like if you have recommendations for books like this, let me know down below, because I would love to read books like this. So it is Mo Willems' That Is Not a Good Idea, which is it's about like a fox sort of tricking the hen. And then at the end, it was really the hen or the duck. It was tricking the hen. I don't know, this bird. The bird being tricked by the fox. And then really the tables turn at the very end. And students are always very surprised. And if they hadn't had read it, there's just this bright, silly surprise on their face, which I love. So, I have one, Bark George by Jules Pfeiffer. is very similar. There's like this little twist at the end where you're like, oh, it's very satisfying when reading to children that moment. It's so much fun. So we read this, though most of the first graders had already read it before, I think in kindergarten. So I was like, okay, like I'm going to try and get other books that are similar to this. And then let's think. Oh, and then I also read Hervé Toulet, Press Here. And then I introduced it with this is a magical book. And it's one of those books that really works for pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. Because it says like press here, and then the yellow dot doubles on the next page. And then you press it again, and then there's now 3 dots on the following page, and you shake it, and the dots scatter. So there's this sense that they really buy into what's happening when they're in like first grade or in kindergarten. But second grade, I think that they would get it immediately that like the artist drew, 3. There's no magic to the functions of me pressing, that the artist did that intentionally. And so you don't have to actually press the page to have something change. Whereas in first grade and in kindergarten, they think that when you press it, or there's this sense that there's still like that little je ne sais quoi of magic where when you press it, something will happen because you pressed it, because of the function that you did as the human following the directions. So, but by second grade, they start to figure things out. There's many things that you could do with second grade that are still magical and wonderful and amazing. This book is less so one of them. So after reading this book, we're about halfway through, because I introduced it as this book is magic. And they were like, what? And then we start going through it, and about halfway through, one of the little girls, again, don't know her name, was like, that book is magic. And I was like, yes. So this is great. There's a whole series. I've always preferred the original. I think this is the original, and I've just always really liked it. Oh, and then just let's see. Oh, one of my big tasks among many things is to get the library weeded. So it's been a project. It's been a project, and it's to no fault of anybody. The library just has been very well loved and very well used, which I'm so excited about. You can tell that kids check out books, they read the books. There are many well-used books in the library, and there are also books that haven't circulated in years. And I mean years. Like I was checking some of the dates on some books. I'm like, oh, this book has not been checked out in 25 years. And yeah, it's just not been touched in 25 years. And so, and it's not just one book. There's like several books that are probably haven't been checked out in a decade. And so part of the librarian's job of any library is to fit the library's collection to its patrons. And so if students are not checking out a certain series, a book, for literal, like an actual decade, maybe it's time to say goodbye so that we have space in room. And also, like, you don't want to have an overwhelming amount of books per child. You don't want the library to be stuffed to the brim. And so, there is this task of like working on weeding books, which has been really interesting, partly just learning the library, trying to find books, which has actually been great. So I printed off a list of books that have yet to have been circulated in at least 7 years. And there are a lot of titles. And so I've been looking for those titles, but as I'm looking, I'm like, it's challenging me to get to know the library, which is great. So that has been fabulous. And so it's been great. I have so much energy towards what I'm doing. I'm loving what I'm doing. It's been fantastic. I am ready to take on the challenges. The people I work with are great. My boys are transitioning wonderfully. And it's been so great. It's been so great. So, yeah, that's it. If you, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Mostly I just wanted to share, like, Diary of a Librarian or something, you know, Reflections of an Elementary School Librarian in her first year, which is me. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye!